The ceasefire between the United States, Israel, and Iran continues, but a resolution remains elusive. The clock is ticking for Iran, and the question is, what options remain for United States President Trump? For over a month, a fragile truce has held between Iran and the alliance of Israel and the United States. This fragility was underscored recently by reports from both Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates, stating they had to fend off suspected Iranian air attacks. As the English saying goes, it takes two to tango, and President Trump is learning that a war does not automatically end just because a United States president wishes it so. Reports from the White House suggest scenarios are being explored, such as a unilateral declaration of victory by the United States or an extended blockade of Iranian oil trade through the Strait of Hormuz. In a long list of arbitrary decisions in this war, the military counter-blockade of the Strait of Hormuz was one of President Trump's few strategically well-conceived moves that could have a significant effect. There is no doubt that Tehran is under immense pressure. Economically, sanctions, high unemployment, currency devaluation, and the blockade of the vital sea lane are taking their toll, though Iran attempts to circumvent some of this through rail links to China. Militarily, Iran is significantly weakened. Western experts estimate damages to infrastructure and military equipment in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Key leaders were eliminated in decapitation strikes at the war's outset, with further leadership layers removed in subsequent attacks. Colonel Matthias Wasinger states, "Purely militarily, Iran is drastically inferior to the United States and Israel." He adds, "At the same time, it has proven that through asymmetric warfare, it can hold the West, if not the world, hostage to a certain extent." This strategy, which Iran has long prepared for, has required little massive military action concerning the Strait of Hormuz blockade. Wasinger notes, they have seized individual tankers, conducted operations with their Mosquito fleet, but a broad, widespread blockade has not occurred. For an escalation, it is enough that Iran slowly squeezes this artery. Iran has also drawn other Gulf states into the conflict with targeted attacks causing immense damage to facilities in Qatar and Kuwait. Wasinger observes that Iran has managed to absorb hard blows from technologically far superior opponents and still selectively inflict pain points and regionalize the conflict. He sees no reliable indicator that the Iranian regime will implode within the next weeks or months. Even recent peace proposals from Iran, conveyed via Pakistan, do not suggest a government ready for serious concessions under pressure. President Trump summarily rejected the offer as completely unacceptable. His earlier announcements of imminent victory and the war's end have now shifted to a more extended time frame, expressing confidence in a television interview that the United States would get Iran's enriched uranium at some point, along with everything else we want. But what cards does he still hold? Let's examine President Trump's options. Option 1, continue as before. It has become clear that air power alone cannot defeat a hostile regime. Ground forces are indispensable. While the United States could resume massive airstrikes to further weaken Iran, it was reported in April, after the ceasefire began, that the United States had already expended around 1,100 long-range cruise missiles, originally built for a war with China, since the conflict began. Additionally, over 1,200 Patriot interceptor missiles, more than 1,000 precision and ATACMS ground-based missiles, and about 1,000 Tomahawks have been used. When President Trump recently denied Germany promised Tomahawk cruise missiles as a punishment, one reason was simply that there were none left to station elsewhere. Continuing the war with the same means, at the same cost, but without a guaranteed victorious outcome, is not advisable for the United States government. Option 2, escalation through a ground offensive. Iran is geographically and topographically well protected from land invasions. Colonel Wosinger explains, on the seaside, an amphibious landing would be necessary, similar to the Allies in World War II in Normandy. That would be very bloody, resource intensive, and has not been carried out in a long time. Adding to this are recent reports of dramatically empty munitions depots in the United States. Furthermore, Gulf states attempting to remain as neutral as possible would likely not agree to provide staging areas for American troops. Wosinger concludes, I do not see how troops could be assembled in Iraq or anywhere in the region to then invade Iran. Option 3. Light escalation by opening the Strait of Hormuz. The United States could undoubtedly temporarily suppress or neutralize Iran's military capabilities in the region to allow passage through the strait. However, this is only meaningful if the strait remains open, and keeping it open would be a far greater challenge. Colonel Wosinger notes, Iran relies not only on its Mosquito fleet, but also on anti-ship missiles hidden on land, which can be brought into position for attacks. Maintaining an open strait would therefore require ships in the waterway, as well as ground forces along the coast. The expert estimates this would require 4 times the current United States troops in the area, which already includes about 2 fully operational aircraft carriers, a significant portion of the United States Marines, and substantial air forces. The United States would also need to counter electronic warfare. If Iran succeeded in disrupting radio signals, ships in the strait would navigate blindly. Wosinger describes the strait as very narrow, with a total width of 30 kilometers, a 3-kilometer wide shipping lane north, another south, and one in the middle to avoid collisions. Passage would become very dangerous. For shipping companies, this eventually becomes unprofitable, he adds. Option 4, allow the ceasefire to evolve into an end to the war. President Trump had many objectives in this conflict. One was to prevent Iran from transforming from a regional power into an international player through its nuclear capabilities. Ironically, the war itself has elevated Iran despite its military weakening. By controlling the Strait of Hormuz, Iran has created leverage far removed from the taboo of a nuclear threat, yet immensely effective concerning international trade and global market interest. The war has indeed made Iran an international player. For the Iranian regime, this constitutes a major success, especially since its war aim can be simply summarized as surviving the war. Therefore, Iran might agree to an end to the war with some concessions on nuclear capabilities without losing face. This is particularly true as the military's influence in Tehran has grown in recent weeks, while the role of the religious leadership has weakened. Although Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the previous Ayatollah, has officially assumed power, he also comes from the military and has maintained close ties with the Revolutionary Guard for years. The military might prove more pragmatic compared to the religious hardliners. However, recent peace proposals from Tehran made it clear that the regime will not be bought cheaply. Achieving an end to the war and stable peace through diplomatic means will require skill and intuition currently in short supply at the White House. Nevertheless, a peace solution appears urgent not only for President Trump, but also for the United States. Its position in the global structure has been significantly weakened by this war. A superpower struggling against an economically weak, in many respects backward, but astonishingly resilient old men's regime. This does not look good, except for geopolitical rivals. Colonel Wosinger points out, historically, what has deterred China from landing in Taiwan has mostly been a United States aircraft carrier. Currently, there isn't one there. The United States is exposing a strategically prioritized area for a secondary theater of war. United States partner countries in the Gulf feel unwillingly caught in the conflict, while their protective power appears neither very effective nor particularly mighty. While Gulf states will not find a quick alternative, China, Russia, and Pakistan are readily available to develop relationships. There are therefore strong reasons for President Trump to seek a serious compromise with Iran. What's your take on Trump's Iran quagmire, dwindling options for US president? Share your view in the comments. Do you think this will matter in the next news cycle? This video was generated using artificial intelligence